Hey there, I need to add a quick note about constraining the aspect ratio in Photoshop. So Adobe just updated Photoshop again, and in a previous relatively recent update, they made it so that we would not have to press Shift to maintain the original width to height ratio. In other words, constraining the aspect ratio, say it's originally 400 by 600 pixels, and we make it larger or smaller, it stays at that same width to height ratio. We used to have to press Shift. Then we did not, it flipped it, so by default it maintains the original width to height ratio, except the smart objects, that still acted like the old way of where we would have to press Shift to maintain that original width to height ratio so we don't distort the image, for example, if it's a photograph. Now with this recent update, Adobe has made it consistent. So I have a photo here. You can open up any photo, it doesn't matter. Just go to File, Open up a photo if you want to follow along. This is just a quick note though. If you need the Layers panel, again, we go to Window, then Layers. And I'm going to double click this to make it a normal layer instead of a background layer. And make sure Show Transform Controls is up there. That's on the Options panel. If you don't have that, just go to Window, Options, or you can go to Window, Workspace Essentials, and then Reset Essentials, and it should have at least the options and the Layers panel over here. I've just rearranged it a little bit. So now I can click and drag the corner, and notice I don't press Shift on the keyboard, and it maintains that original width to height ratio. That's good. It used to do this by default, and we would have to press Shift, and it would then go to the original width to height ratio. So now it's flipped, and it's a little bit more convenient, I think, because usually we want to maintain that original width to height ratio, at least when we're dealing with photographs. We don't want to distort it, but if we did want to change it a little bit, we would press Shift, and then we can change the width to height ratio. So it doesn't matter if we're talking about an image layer. I'll press Enter to apply that. It also applies, for example, to text or type layers. I'll just type in Iceland Adventure. Let's just say this was a brochure or a website idea that we're working on. And I just click and drag the corner, and it looks fine. If I hold Shift, if we wanted to distort it vertically or horizontally, we could do that. Again, we need to press Shift though. If we don't press Shift, the default is now that original width to height ratio, so we don't distort that photo or that text. Same thing for a shape layer. Let's just go to the shapes over here, and if I just click and drag out like so, now it doesn't have an original width to height ratio here because this is a new shape, right? So once I bring it out there, now if I go to the Move tool and I just click and drag the corner, it maintains that original width to height ratio by default. And I can press Shift, and this is one of those examples where we would want to maybe press Shift if we want to make it taller or wider and we're not distorting text or a photo, for example. So I'll press Enter, and I will click and drag that below the text so it's behind that, and then we would have our design there. So that's just a quick note about maintaining that original width to height ratio, or in other words, constraining the aspect ratio of the original type layer or photo layer, for example. So again, we press Shift if we want to change the width to height ratio. By default now, it maintains the original width to height ratio without pressing Shift. Thanks.